Ladies and gentlemen, God specializes in brokenness. That's his territory. That's where he does his greatest work. You see, we live in a world that praises perfection, that celebrates polish and filters and flawless living. But God, he leans into the broken, the bruised, the busted up parts of our lives, the parts we try to hide from others, and sometimes even from ourselves. And it's in that hidden place, in that wreckage of disappointment and defeat, that God shows up and says, I can use this. When everything around you has shattered, when your heart has been dropped so many times it's in pieces, that's not the end. That's the beginning of divine transformation. God doesn't walk past the mess. He steps into it. He rolls up his sleeves, and with hands that formed galaxies, he begins to pick up every shattered dream, every failed attempt, every broken relationship, every ounce of pain you thought was pointless, and he starts creating something new. People might leave when things get messy. Friends may walk away. Family may misunderstand. But God leans in closer when others back up. He's not afraid of the mess. In fact, he chooses it. He chooses the unlikely. He chooses the rejected. He chooses the flawed and the forgotten. Look through the pages of the Word. He didn't use kings who had it all together. He used shepherds, prostitutes, tax collectors, and liars. Not because they were perfect, but because they were willing to say, Lord, if you can use this, here it is. Your brokenness does not disqualify you. It actually qualifies you, because when God uses broken people, he gets the glory. Nobody will look at your life and say, they did it all on their own. No, they'll say, that had to be God. That had to be his hand. That had to be his grace. That's what brokenness does. It makes room for his power to shine. So don't be ashamed of your story. Don't hide the places where life tried to crush you. That's the soil where growth happens. That's the place where God plants new beginnings. When you bring your brokenness to God, you give him permission to perform spiritual surgery. He doesn't just fix what's visible, he heals what's deep. He doesn't just patch it up, he transforms it into something better than it ever was before. You may feel shattered, but in God's hands, shattered becomes sacred. Pieces become purpose. Pain becomes power. Don't run from the mess. Bring it to the one who knows exactly what to do with it. Because when God sees brokenness, he sees an opportunity to reveal his glory. And that is where your miracle begins. Your pain has purpose. I know it doesn't feel like it when you're crying in the dark, wondering why it had to happen. I know it doesn't seem like it when the storm hits your life so hard you can barely breathe. But let me tell you something loud and clear. There is purpose in your pain. It didn't come to destroy you. It came to develop you. See, we want the promise without the process. We want the victory without the valley. But purpose is often born in pain. Destiny is often shaped in discomfort. God doesn't waste wounds. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, every betrayal, every loss, it all counts. It's not random, it's not meaningless, it's a setup, a divine setup for transformation. You can't grow in comfort. You can't mature in ease. You don't build endurance when everything is going your way. No, it's the pain that produces the power. It's the struggle that stretches your faith. It's the breaking that brings the blessing. Some of your greatest anointing will come from your deepest agony. Some of your strongest testimony will rise from your darkest trials. You've been asking, why me? But God is saying, why not you? Because I know what I've placed in you. I know what you're capable of carrying. I know what kind of warrior I'm forming in the fire. You see the pain, but God sees the preparation. He's molding you. He's stretching you. He's preparing you for a purpose bigger than the pain you're in. You wouldn't be the person you are today if it weren't for the things you had to fight through. That heartbreak taught you how to love deeper. That loss taught you how to value what matters. That rejection taught you that your identity is not in people, but in purpose. You learned how to pray in that pain. You found your voice in that pain. You discovered strength you didn't even know you had when everything else fell apart. So stop despising your process. Stop cursing the season you're in. God didn't forget you. He's forming you. He's making you into something that can't be shaken. He's using the very thing that tried to break you to build you into something unbreakable. That pain didn't come to end your story. It came to birth your next chapter. And one day, you'll look back on everything you survived and realize it wasn't just pain. It was preparation. It was purpose in disguise, and you'll stand in your calling strong and unshakable, not because it was easy, but because you allowed the pain to push you closer to your purpose. That's the power of God. He takes what hurt you and turns it into what heals others. Scars are part of your story. You can try to hide them, cover them up, pretend they don't exist. But the truth is, those scars are proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you. They tell a story not of weakness, but of strength, not of defeat, but of deliverance. They are not signs of shame. They are signs that God brought you through. You don't get scars from staying safe. Scars come from battles, from walking through hell and coming out the other side with your head held high. From being wounded, but not wiped out. From bleeding, but still believing. Every scar has a name. Every scar has a memory. And every scar has a meaning. You may have been broken, but you were not buried. You may have been hit, but you were not held down. That scar says, I made it. That scar says, the enemy tried but failed. That scar says, I've got a testimony. You've been trying to live like nothing ever happened to you. You've been trying to act whole while hiding what hurts, but there's healing in being honest. God can't heal what you won't reveal. You keep dressing up the outside, but God is trying to get you to be real about the inside, because the power is in your story. Somebody needs to see your scar and know that they can survive too. Somebody needs to hear that it hurt, that you cried, that you almost gave up, but you didn't. You stayed, you fought, you believed, and God brought you out. Scars don't mean you're still hurting. They mean you've healed. The wound is closed, but the mark remains not as a reminder of the pain, but as a reminder of the process. You went through something, you endured something, and now you carry proof of the grace of God. Some people are drawn to perfection, but real people are drawn to authenticity. They're looking for someone who's been through something and isn't afraid to talk about it. Don't let the enemy convince you to keep silent about your story. He wants you ashamed. He wants you quiet. Because he knows if you ever open your mouth about what God has brought you through, chains will break. If you ever show your scars, somebody else will find strength to get up and keep going. Your scars are not a curse. They are a calling. A calling to help, to heal, to lead others who are walking through the same fire you once did. So show your scars. Speak your truth. Stop trying to erase the evidence of your survival, because the scar is the sermon. It says God still heals, it says grace is still greater, it says purpose is still alive, and every time you look at your scar, remind yourself, what tried to kill me couldn't. And that alone is enough to give God praise. God turns mess into ministry. That thing you've been trying to forget, the pain you've been running from, the shame that's kept you quiet, God can use it. Not just use it, but transform it. What was once your greatest embarrassment can become your greatest assignment. The very place where you were wounded is the place where your voice is needed. Don't you see, your mess is not just a mistake. It's material, kingdom material. You thought it disqualified you, but it actually prepared you. You thought it was your downfall, but it was your doorway. The divorce, the addiction, the betrayal, the time you lost, the decisions you regret, none of it is wasted. God collects every broken piece and builds a platform. He takes your lowest moment and makes it the foundation of your calling. That's how ministry is birthed, not from comfort but from crisis. People think ministry comes with microphones and pulpits, but real ministry is born in the trenches. In the nights you cried yourself to sleep, in the silence after they walked away, in the struggle of rebuilding your life from scratch. Real ministry rises when you've been knocked down, but you get up and tell somebody else how to stand. It's not about having it all together. It's about having been through something and still standing. You see, people don't need perfect. They need real. They need someone who knows how it feels to fall and still find faith. They need someone who's been through the fire and didn't smell like smoke. Someone who can say, yes, I've been there. Yes, I've messed up. Yes, I almost gave up, but God met me in my mess, and He didn't just clean it up. He called me through it. That's the kind of ministry that changes lives. It's not polished. It's not always pretty, but it's powerful because it's personal. People can argue your theology, but they can't argue your testimony. They can't argue your survival. You didn't just make it through, you grew through. And now you've got something to give, something to say, something to pour out. Stop waiting to be perfect before you speak. Stop waiting to be flawless before you help. God doesn't need perfection, He needs permission. He needs a willing heart. He needs someone who will say, Lord, if you can use this mess, use it. Because ministry isn't about your strength. It's about His grace. It's about showing up, scars and all, and letting others know that healing is real and hope is alive. So step into your ministry. Don't disqualify yourself. Your past is not a prison. It's a platform. Your story is not over. It's just beginning. God is turning your mess into a message, your pain into power, your trial into a testimony. What once hurt, you will now help others. And that's how God takes what was broken and makes it holy. You're not disqualified by your past. I don't care what they said about you. I don't care how many times you've failed, how far you've fallen, or how dirty your story looks. God doesn't write people off the way this world does. You may have been counted out by others, but heaven still has you counted in. Your past may explain you, but it does not define you. What you did is not who you are, and the grace of God is still greater than your worst mistake. The enemy wants you to believe that what happened back then disqualifies you from what's meant to happen next. But the devil is a liar. The guilt, the shame, the regret that's not from God. That's the enemy trying to keep you in chains that Jesus already broke. Because if the enemy can keep you looking backward, you'll never move forward. But God is not consulting your past to determine your future. He already factored in every mistake, every detour, every fall, and still chose you. Look at who God used. He didn't use perfect people. He used broken people, messed up people, flawed people with real pasts. Moses was a murderer. David was an adulterer. Paul persecuted the church, but when grace stepped in, purpose woke up. And if he did it for them, he can do it for you. You think your past disqualifies you, but God uses it to qualify you. That very thing you're ashamed of may be the very thing God will use to open doors for others. Some of you are sitting on gifts, sitting on purpose, sitting on destiny, not because you aren't called, but because you believe you're too dirty to be used. Let me tell you something. God doesn't anoint perfection, He anoints surrender. He's not waiting on you to clean yourself up. He's waiting on you to come just as you are, wounded, bruised, messed up, but available. Your past was a setup for grace, a setup for redemption, a setup for testimony. And when God brings you out, He'll bring you out in such a way that people won't even believe what you went through. He'll cover you so completely that your past won't even look like your present. He'll use what tried to break you as the very evidence that He still builds masterpieces out of broken things. So stop letting shame silence your voice. Stop letting regret steal your confidence. God knew every chapter of your story before you were even born, and He still called you, still anointed you, still assigned you. You are not disqualified. You are chosen. You are redeemed. You are still on the path, and your best is not behind you. It's ahead. Don't bury your calling because of your past. Stand up, rise up, and walk in who God says you are. Because grace didn't just save you, it also sent you. And nothing from your past can stop what God has purposed for your future. Surrender is the first step to redemption. You've tried to fix it on your own. You've carried the weight, buried the pain, and fought battles in silence. But as long as you keep holding it, God can't heal it. Redemption doesn't begin with strength. It begins with surrender. It starts the moment you say, God, I can't do this by myself. That's when heaven leans in. That's when grace steps forward. That's when transformation begins. See, we're taught to be strong, to keep it together, to push through. But God doesn't need your performance. He wants your permission. He's not looking for people who have it all figured out. He's looking for people who are willing to lay it all down, not just the good parts, not just the polished image, but the mess, the wounds, the doubts, the disappointments. He wants the real you, the broken you, the you that's been pretending everything's fine when it's not. Because it's in surrender that redemption is born. As long as you're trying to control it, fix it, hide it, God can't step in the way He wants to. He's a gentleman. He won't force His way into your chaos. But the moment you open your hands and say, Here, Lord, take it. I give it to you. That's when chains start breaking. That's when healing begins. That's when what was once a mess begins to look like a miracle in progress. Some of you are tired because you're carrying things God never told you to carry. You're worn out because you're trying to do spiritual work with human strength. And God is saying, if you'd just surrender, I'd step in. If you'd stop striving, I'd start restoring. If you'd let go of control, I'd release power. Redemption doesn't always look like an instant turnaround. Sometimes it starts in silence, in stillness, in the secret place where you finally admit, God, I need you. And in that quiet surrender, He begins to reshape your story. He begins to rebuild what was broken. He starts calling purpose out of pain, beauty out of ashes, joy out of mourning. There is power in surrender, power that moves mountains, power that opens doors, power that shifts atmospheres. When you stop trying to save yourself and let the Savior do what only He can do, your story changes. Your identity changes. You stop living under the weight of what was and start walking in the promise of what can be. So today, don't just give God your praise, give Him your pain. Don't just offer your talent, offer your trauma. Don't just sing songs, bring your scars. Lay it all at His feet. He already knows, and He still loves you. He's not waiting for a cleaned up version of you. He's waiting for the real, raw, surrendered you.